My God, it's been a long week for me and Jim. No introduction. We're getting to the first fight. Ramaska, Nathan Fletcher, who you got?
Nobody. Not betting on the final.
Okay, all
If
right.
I had to pick, I can't buy into a guy coming off a broken leg. I just can't. And it's too short a time. I know it wasn't a bad break. So, if anything, I'd look to fade Fletcher, but I don't like the lines. I don't like the fighters. It's a finale fight. I have no interest in betting it whatsoever.
It's not even a finale. Like
Oh, it's true. Yeah, it isn't.
It's a showcase of two guys that couldn't continue on in the competition because they got hurt. I mean, it's a really weird fight. I actually kind of like Ramaska in it when I like his style. I actually think the guy might have. Here's what's going good for him for a potential little UFC run. He's a really exciting fighter. He could put on a good show. So he had the orbital, or they didn't say orbital, but face injury, and he couldn't continue in the. I like his striking. I think his striking and his volume are pretty good. I saw Fletcher make some big mistakes in the grappling, and that's supposed to be his strong suit. So if your strong suit's grappling and kind of fall off the top and, kind of get reversed, done some things, I'm not really there. Now, if he shored up those things and maybe the broken leg had something to do with it, maybe. But again, I'm not betting this with my own money, but I would lead Ramaska a little bit in that one. I'm glad we waited until after weigh-ins to see this one. I think the biggest miracle is that this fight is still happening. Andrade Petroski and Dylan Budka. I don't put as much into weigh-ins as most people do, but even I have to say, yikes, Dylan Budka. No way you can play him after what we saw earlier today, right?
No way you can play him at all. Even if he rehydrates somewhat, once his body starts burning water and calories, we just don't know what kind of deficit he's at. Everybody with the over 2.5 is shaking in their boots right now. So, this is why sometimes we like waiting a little bit during the week and seeing, because I could see just an absolute death gas from Budka. Now, so could Petroski, but I think Petroski has him covered as far as being on the ground. I don't see Budka being able to stop any of Petroski's takedowns. I hope the dreaded UFC don't wrestle thing comes into play here. I don't think it will. I don't know if Petroski has that ability, but I could very easily see Petroski in round 2 and 3 dominating this, and Budka just having nothing left.
Well, you know who else?
Let's see if it still happens. I mean,
you know who else isn't very good at striking? Dylan Budka. I'd like to introduce you to Jet Jones. This is the only person that Dylan Budka has knocked out. He's 2-11. I will do my quick rant on Chad Hanekom. So Chad Hanekom and Dylan Budka put on the worst fight in Contender Series history. Hanekom tests positive for cocaine. A little bit later after the fight, the story is he enjoyed Vegas a lot. The fight was awful. Dana felt bad for Budka. Told Budka you can come back on Contender Series, but instead gave him a fight against Cesar Almeida where he pushed Cesar Almeida against the fence for the entire first round. I believe was credited with a strike, like one strike. He tried to do it again in the second round. Almeida just blasts him in the side of the head. I don't think Budka, I think his striking's terrible. His cardio was awful. And, he fought this Dan Stevenson at heavyweight and, got the submission, but this Dan Stevenson's 2-4. And then Contender Series, he's down to like at 185. This guy can't figure out his weight division, Jim. Like, no wonder he's having weight cutting issues. He's like, am I at 205 or 185, or is there a made up division I need to hit? Budka just got disaster written all over him. I liked what Petroski did against Fremd. Was it boring? Yeah. But in the betting space, I like knowing what I'm going to get from a guy. And I think we're going to get a Petroski who isn't scared to work the wrestling. This was a guy who, lost to Pereira and Malkoun. He needed to win. Like, forget the style points. He needed to win. He went out and did it, took Frem down, held him down. I think he can do that against Budka. It's Petroski or nothing on that one. Our girl, Vanessa Demopoulos, making her triumphant split decision return against Jaqueline Amorim. What do you got?
I think she's back to another split decision. Win or lose, it's back to another split decision. And if it's going to be a split decision, I'm taking the +3.5 on Vanessa a lot.
Ooh, you're going spread? So not not over rounds, not money line, the spread, right?
I think this is one. I know the judging has been rough, but this is going to take her losing by finish, which hasn't happened.
That's a good point.
It hasn't happened. Grappling in overtime, okay, but
That doesn't count.
She doesn't get finished. So, I mean, either Amorim is way better than we think she is on the ground, but she's not knocking out. Okay, Vanessa. I think this is where the +1 +3.5 in a long time that we can actually play and have pretty good faith. All we need is one round. Why don't you judge a scorecard? Give us one round for Vanessa.
Yeah.
I just Amorim, I think, is a front runner. And I think Vanessa's going to get stronger as this fight goes on.
Yeah, so she's coming off of these 2 wins. She catches McKenna in an arm bar, and then she beat Ruiz with ground and pound, but it was because Ruiz got tired, and Demopoulos is not going to get tired in the third.
Mhm.
And Demopoulos is good on the ground. She's not going to get in an arm bar. And so well, it is interesting that Jaqueline Amorim lost to Sam Hughes. To me, Sam Hughes and Vanessa Demopoulos have a lot of the same characteristics. They're going to push forward. They're not going to give up. They're not going to get tired. You're not going to, and Demopoulos, what do I always say? Vanessa Demopoulos has the best move in all of UFC. It's not a strike. It's not a kick. It's not a submission. It's jumping up at the end of rounds and putting your hands in the air when you've just spent the last minute on your back. And the judge is like, oh, you got to love her. But Vanessa's going to be better on the feet. And the worst thing that Amorim can do, I think, might actually be get on top of Vanessa, because Vanessa wins all of those exchanges. Just
She's so active.
Rabbit
active.
is in elbows, and the judge is like, "Look how active she is." Yeah, I don't see a way you can lay that big a price on Amorim. That's a parlay buster if I've ever seen it. So
I mean, Vanessa's up to +250. A lot of people are seeing the same things that we see, and I know the line just keeps on going. I'm still no interest in the money line before 2.5 minutes of the first round.
Okay,
You're gonna get a better line on Vanessa 2.5 minutes of because I think Amorim gets the takedown early. I just don't think she finishes. If she gets a takedown right off the bat, we're gonna watch that line tick up.
Yeah.
It gets to 400 or 500. Now you got my interest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you guys could hit the like button, leave us a comment below. Tell us who you like. Tell us if you agree or disagree with any of the takes. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Let's talk Gabriel, Santos, and Yizha. Who you like in this one?
Gabriel Santos. What a curious case. Is this one of those where we're like, wow, I mean, came on the scene, looked tough, looked good. He's on the bad end of a bad knockout from Lerone Murphy and from David Onama. But took a lot of time away. Okay, 6-24-23. That's a
over a year.
I think his chin is going to be okay. And I'm just not impressed with Yizha. I don't think he's one of these guys you can hang your hat on. You want to talk about a padded record? My God, the guys that this guy has fought. Just look at his record compared to who he was fighting, and you can tell what the promotion wanted to happen there. Okay,
Will Force. It's the long lost cousin of the Milf Wars.
It's just a joke. So, the question is, can Gabriel's chin hold up? I don't think he's going to be hit nearly as hard as he did against David Onama. So I like Santos in this spot. It's not a bet for me. The number's not knocking my socks off. It's got to be parlayed with something. So it'll probably be a pass, but for sake of picking, I'll pick Santos to get a W in this one. He's due.
Yeah, I need to see some patience from Santos. He almost had Onama in quite a few submission attempts, and what do you always say? Position over submission.
That's right.
He just got way too hasty and just overzealous. We know he can strike. We know he can, we know he can he's got these rear naked chokes, but he's also got, strikes. He's a finisher. We've seen it, but he's got to settle into the fight. I'm with you. Not winning on road to UFC and then coming back and getting there on road to UFC. I'm with you that the padded record is not very good. I'm not impressed with really much of anything that Yizha does. I don't see where he has a big advantage, to be honest. That's the asterisk is if Santos is in control of himself, it doesn't get too wild and crazy. If he does, we saw him make mistakes against Onama and he got finished. So as long as they reel him in a little bit and just say, calm down, let the fight come to you. I think he can get the finish. I'm also taking unders in this one because it's a road to UFC fight, and most road to UFC fighters, these UFC fights, they just end up not going the distance because these guys are kill or be killed. So Santos, maybe under. Santos inside the distance might be a good one. Andre Lima, Felipe dos Santos. Of course, everybody talks about Andre Lima. Okay, he got bit. The great leg kicks against Mitroposo. I see an overrated fighter here. What do you see?
I agree. Mitch did everything you possibly could do to lose that fight. If he made a couple game plan adjustments in that fight, he gives Andre a much harder time. And I remember we watched that one live, and it was just so evident that he had the worst game plan, froze in the ring, stood in front of him. I mean, didn't even look like he saw the leg kicks coming, just ate every single one of them.
No
and
adjustments.
We were screaming, like, yeah, you said it. Check one. Just check one. One, please. And then he'll stop doing it as much. Just one. I don't know about this fight. I want to take the over 2.5 because I really don't want to pick a side because I don't think Lima's that great. I don't think Dos Santos is that great either. He's had a bit of a rough run from what he shows. I just, the loss against Manel Cape, it's expected. The Altamirano split, I think we still disagree on Altamirano. I understood what you said, thinking he's maybe better. I still don't think he's that good. The fact that was a split, I think, is very concerning to me. So I was looking at the over 2.5, but, Dos Santos has been wobbled. That's the thing that worries me about this and taking him to fade Lima. I think he could get clipped. Now, we have seen with these UFC gloves, you get one chance for a knockout, and if the guy doesn't go all the way out, the fights go in the distance. So this could be exactly what we see is so Dos Santos get wobbled in the first round. He doesn't get finished, and then I could see him working in if Andre's cardio starts going away. Andre looked good on the scales. No weight issues whatsoever. Kind of playing it up a little bit. Really can't get anywhere on a side on this, but I am all for fading Andre Lima when the time is right. I just don't know if it's now.
I think your over is a fine play. This guy went to decision on Contender Series and went to decision against Mitch Raposo. And to be honest, even though with all those leg kicks, that fight wasn't close to being finished. Biting. You got me there. But Felipe Dos Santos, I like this cardio against Altamirano. This guy went to decision against Manel Cape. I like Dos Santos a little bit on there, but I think you're fine with the over. This is I think this is the longest reach that Lima will have faced. Dos Santos is going to have a really good long reach. I just don't think Lima's finishing guys at this level. When you can't get Mitch Raposo out of there, I just don't think you're going to be able to. Dos Santos is not going to sit there and eat those kicks. At the same time, I like Lima's cardio. I like his durability. He has really good movement. He's not sloppy. I don't know. I think he's fairly limited. I think he's got a fairly low ceiling. I would lean Dos Santos, but I like your overplay in there. I think the fight goes the distance. Like you said, man, these new gloves, a lot of these fights, man, if it doesn't get finished in the first round, it's just toast. You're going the distance. We're seeing on Contender Series as well. Like some of these fights, it's like, oh, it screams under, and then bang, all of a sudden, we're to decision. So one fight that probably is not going to go the distance, Issac Dulgarian and Brendon Marotte. Come on, Jim. Do it. You won't do
I have
it.
The huevos?
Do you have the onion? Please don't.
Hell no,
Please don't bet Brendon Marotte.
No, that's not happening. Here's the thing: this fight's probably going to end because it doesn't matter what kind of gloves you have while you're choking somebody unconscious. And I think that's how this is going to end. It's probably going to end by Issac rear naked choke early.
Okay.
He's going to get the wrestling going. He's going to get him down to the ground. He's got a really slick back take. Brendon Marotte, I don't know why they're putting him in this spot. This is This is what drives me nuts about the UFC is you have Isaac Dulgarian, and I understand you want to build him up with a win, but does a win over Brendon Marotte build you up?
Mhm.
It's just a waste. And we know with these fighters, they have a limited career. If you asked Isaac Dulgarian who he'd rather fight, Brendon Marotte or like a top 15 guy, who do you think he's choosing?
Dulgarian can fight a top 15 guy next week.
I know.
When he
He'll be on no check. Okay, he'll be on no check.
Yes, you're gonna be on the alternate list.
Pull one of those 7-day swings because he'll
Yeah,
probably lose us.
yeah. Brandon Marotte might be one of the worst fighters on the UFC roster. They bring him in. McKinney knocked him out in 20 seconds. Not like McKinney's like the be all end all as well. So, all right, we've talked enough about Dulgarian and Brandon Marotte
from that one.
This fight, I'm interested in Rongzhu and Chris Padilla. What do you like in this one?
See, a lot of people liking Chris Padilla. Thing is, I think Rongzhu is a legit prospect. I do think he's a legit prospect from Korea, China. Is he China or Korea? China, right?
Yeah, China. I heard Cody Saftik saying where he comes from is this Embo Fight Club. We said they literally like take orphans and they're just like, we're just going to teach you how to fight. This is going to be your life, and we're going to turn it into something positive, and then we're going to manage you. So I didn't know that that's where Rongzhu came from. But yeah, kind of an interesting backstory there that Cody Saftik mentioned on his show.
I think he's legit. I do think he's legit. I think he's got a good all-around game. Padilla, he's another one of these guys that came in relatively unknown. We really don't know what we're going to get from him yet. It's just, I'm done buying into these debuts, and then they come back for a second fight. They look totally different. And then the third fight, you're trying to figure out which one you got. You get the first version. Then they fight a fourth time. You get the fourth version. It's like I can't place it. To me, there's not enough read for myself to bet on Padilla here. And I think Rongzhu's legit. Yeah, I think he can work this. Again, I don't see this being an insta finish. I think Padilla is good enough to survive. The win against James Lontop. Look, James Lontop stinks. Okay, he stinks. Justin James, he stinks. Who the heck are these other two?
I don't know these other guys. I really don't.
So I can't buy into it. So it's Rongzhu for nothing for me. I think he's parlayable.
Yeah, 30 fights, and he's only 24. So here's what I liked about just watching his his road to UFC. So okay, loses to Bahamondes, beats Brandon Jenkins, Rodrigo Barton. He was really young then. I mean, that's barely 21 years old. I really liked. I went back just this last fight. I went back and watched. I loved his patience. He set up everything for this third round finish. He didn't get too over anxious. He didn't get caught with anything. He really just worked this guy and worked this guy and worked this guy and controlled the entire pace of the fight. It was a very patient, mature performance. I think this guy might be a little bit different than a lot of the road to UFC guys coming out. Excuse me. If he shows that kind of patience and maturity, I think he does get the better of Padilla. I'm not putting a whole lot of stock into the James Lontop because you and I both, when we watched Lontop on Contender Series, we were just like, this is a fade alert if I've ever seen it. And sure enough, Lontop has been a fade. But I do give Padilla credit. Lontop kept making the same mistake in the first round. Padilla was smart enough to realize it, smart enough to take advantage of it. So that is impressive because that shows fight IQ that a lot of other guys would not have picked up on. So, the Justin James, it is what it is, but credit to him. Knocked him out. Credit to him for over these two other guys. He does what he's supposed to do. He gets finishes. So I like Padilla, but I like Rongzhu. I think this might be a very interesting kind of new path in the UFC for him. Now it's minus 250. So yeah, it is kind of a parlay piece. I think Rongzhu gets the better of Padilla on this one, but it's parlayable. I'm going to be a believer in Rongzhu, and if I'm wrong about Rongzhu, then Padilla, then that means we do have to start taking Padilla pretty serious. So, Trevor Peak and Yanal Ashmouz, what's your take on Peak and Ashmouz?
Can sum this up pretty simple here. Trevor Peak's a favorite. you're not going to bet Trevor Peek as a favorite. It's that simple. He is the epitome of an underdog fighter, isn't he? He's an underdog story. He's an underdog fighter the way he fights. This is his second camp with Trevor Whitman. So I have no interest in betting this fight till I see it, as far as the side goes. I'm very curious if the second fight camp with Trevor Whitman, we're going to start seeing changes to Trevor Peek. I think that his body has started to go through changes just training with Trevor Whitman. And looking at the weigh-ins, he looked like he was a little less bulky muscle, a little leaner, a little thinner in the shoulders, maybe a little bit more flexibility, maybe some cleaner striking comes from that, as opposed to just being this muscle monster that swings. That being said, Ashmouz most certainly, as we know right now, is the better technical striker. We know both of these guys are tough as nails, both of them. Again, the over 2.5. I know it's going to be sweaty. There'll be a spot where somebody gets wobbled in the first, but if it starts the second, it's going the distance. They're going to be tired. They're going to be wailing on each other. They're going to be leaning up against the fence. Trevor Peek is going to go for a rear naked choke and go flying off of Ashmouz like he does every fight. So I want to see the improvements for Peek, but I have to see this fight with my own eyes before I put my money on it. If Peek looks like he has really improved, we might be looking back at that Yanal knockout of Sam Patterson saying it really was a fluke, because Patterson's looked damn good since. I know the competition hasn't been great, but he's looked good. So I'm going to watch this live very soon. And if I see the same old Trevor Peek, I'm all over Ashmouz as soon as I can. If I see improvements, I think we let it ride a little bit and see if he starts to pull away.
I've got this fight to go the distance. I've just seen, oh, it's Peek, it's Ashmouz, oh, it's strikers, oh, it's got to be an early finish, and I'm getting almost like, what, minus 140, minus 130? Yeah. This thing to go the distance. Newsflash, Trevor Peek has gone the distance in his last 3 UFC fights against Marotte, against Yizha, who is atrocious. Mm-hmm. I've said Muhammad Yahya was one of the worst fighters I've ever watched film on in the last few years, and he has proven that. And yet somehow Trevor Peek couldn't get him out of there. Then he goes against Charlie Campbell. I think Peek and Ashmouz are kind of similar into that. You're going to get these big bursts of energy and then big moments of lull, like blah, 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 and then step back, blah, 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 and step back. And like you said, this thing gets out of the first round. These 2 gloves, and it just screams to go over, especially when I think most people are liking the under on it. That we've seen time and time again. I go back to that Abus Magomedov fight where it was, who was he fighting? Izatar, and we were like, oh, it's got to go over, and then 4 minutes into we were like, it's got to go under. 4 minutes into the fight, we were like, this is going the distance, isn't it? Like, we got fooled again by it. So Peek and Ashmouz, no. You're not tricking me into betting an under on this one. So, yeah, I don't know. Is there a chance that Ashmouz somehow attempts some wrestling because Peek is not very good?
Oh, very much so.
At it, I think we could see some clinch and some wrestling, which would eat valuable time off the clock for an over. So, over is the only way. I don't care who wins this one. Matt Schnell and Cody Durden, who, if am I hearing this right? That he just didn't bring
him, supposedly.
I see. Like he just brought his girlfriend.
I don't buy into that type.
You don't. You would know more about this kind of situation. So what the story is that Cody Durden just packed up him and his girlfriend, very Mike Perry-esque, Bonnie and Clyde. We're just going in this, you and me, babe. No, I don't need a corner man. And let's be honest, against Matt Schnell, you probably don't need a corner man. You're either going to get taken down and submitted, or you're going to knock him out. So you don't need a corner man to tell you don't get taken down by Matt Schnell and to try and hit him hard on the chin. So I can't verify that. Those are just the stories.
That's what we're hearing. That's what we're hearing.
Yeah. So what is it? Schnell by decision or Durden by knockout?
Well, Cody certainly looks like he took this on short notice after seeing it. He certainly does. It's not egregious, but you can 100% tell this is not like natural weight.
Okay.
As far as that goes. This is, I know we're going on rants about fights going over, right? This is one I'm not interested in to goes the distance.
Yeah, me either.
I think somebody gets finished in this, and it's either going to be Durden by knockout or Schnell by submission. I just can't get over Matt Schnell's chin. I can't. Cody Durden, I'm sure, has the cardio enough to fight Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell is not going to power wrestle Cody and wear on his gas tank. It's probably going to end up being standing unless Schnell is shooting the takedowns. If I'm Cody, I have no problem standing with Matt Schnell. Like, why?
Okay.
If you're Cody, why would you wrestle? To me, you're giving
wouldn't.
Schnell the option to get his submission.
Agreed.
Right? So
Agreed.
I'm not worried about his cardio because wrestling would be the thing that's going to tire him out. So I think Cody comes in here and sparks Matt Schnell. I do. But yes, I will have a piece of this fight not to go the distance. Because both of these guys are damaged goods going into this fight. Big time.
We got 3 fights to break down. Do want to tell you guys, I'm not going to promote UFC play or anything. Going to promote college football. College football plays have just been a really, really nice diamond in the rough for us. We went 13-4 last year in college football. Our strategy is 1 play a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we get. We get our best play, and it's always a team total. We went 13-4 last year. And we're already 1-0 after last week's win. So we faded them Colorado Buffaloes with the North Dakota State team total over. We get there late, and we got a spot circled that I just love. So we keep college football very, very simple, and it's resulted in the number 1 percentage and the number 1 ROI the last 2 years, Wager Talk. We're not number 1 in units because we only put out 1 play a week. But I'll happily take that number 1 ROI spot. So we'll keep riding that. So that game is Saturday night. So if you're watching this, you probably have plenty of time to go get that in. Put it up for only $15 at wagertalk.com. Take advantage of our college football. All right, let's get into our boy, Steve Garcia, just coming through in the clutch and cashing the Garcia by KO props. We were on him the last couple times, and it's how this guy wins, man. If he's winning a fight, he's knocking somebody out. Can he do it again against Kyle Nelson, Jim?
Well, Steve Garcia has the kryptonite to the new gloves. I don't think that means anything to Steve Garcia. Might even help him for all we know at this point. Kyle Nelson's luck has to run out at some point. He comes in 2.5 pounds heavy. He's doing his interview with his daughter. That's never something that we like. We want you focused on the fight, not your family hanging around while daddy's about to get into a fist fight. Not the mental space I would want to be. And then to see the weight miss as well. I have big questions about what's going on behind the scenes. All right, with Nelson. Same thing is, though, Steve gets clipped. Could he get
every
clipped
fight?
Kyle Nelson? Sure.
Yes.
But it's like a light switch goes off, and it's like, oh, that's right. I punch harder than this guy. Let me just hit him back. So, again, this is another one. I do not think that the new gloves will matter. I think somebody's going down. It's all because of Steve. If Steve's going to lose, I think he's going to lose by getting knocked out. If he wins, he's going to put somebody's lights out, and they're going to be limp on the floor. It's not going to have to be an accumulation of damage. But this guy, it's one shot KO power. And when we're talking about betting finishes and fights not to go the distance, henceforth, from this show, we spoke about it this week, you got to have one legitimate power to really bet on these finishes because the numbers don't lie this year. Since they introduced those gloves and since the scoring's been funky, we've seen more and more fights go over. Steve Garcia bucks that trend. I think he's still an underfighter. So give me Steve in this one. I think he finally hands Kyle his long-awaited loss, and he's been dodging for 3 fights.
I have cashed on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've cashed on Steve Garcia's last 6 fights. The Ontiveros, we just played it not to go the distance. Cashed the Machate, played it not to go the distance. Hooper not to go the distance. Then I switched to the knockouts, which have gone. As much as I love riding the trend, we've been doing a great job on some of the fighters. Man, this one has me a little bit worried on the Garcia by KO. I'm going to ride with it one more time just because I'm so in the money with this play on Garcia and the KO. I'm even going to get very more specific. Kyle Nelson, we know, can clinch. I can see Kyle Nelson either desperately trying to shoot in for a clinch or he gets wobbled, so he tries to clinch. Garcia lands a beautiful body shot and follows it up with the KO. I think Kyle Nelson's body's going to be a little bit exposed when he jumps in, and we've seen Garcia with some nasty shots to the body. Not just like, oh, good volume over the course of 3 rounds. No, one shot, you're down. So I think Kyle Nelson leaves his body open. Garcia hits him there, and then eventually gets the KO. Would I be stunned if Kyle Nelson clips him and finishes him? No, just because that's how Garcia rolls. And credit to Kyle Nelson. His luck is going to run out. He got the gift of gifts when he fought Blake Builder, who fought like an idiot. I went back and watched this Padilla fight. I still have no idea how Kyle Nelson won that fight. Like it's not going down as one of the all-time worst decisions, but it's pretty bad. And then he clips Algeo like everyone does, and he does get the finish. I thought it was an early stoppage, but credit to Kyle Nelson. He got a ref that was looking out for Algeo, and if he does it again, he could absolutely get it. But the pick for me is going to be Steve Garcia, but I'm biased. I cashed this bet many, many times in a row. If I lose on this one, I'm still up on my Steve Garcia. But if you haven't been following that trend, I wouldn't say now's the time to jump in on it. So Jessica Andrade and Natalia Silva. I didn't understand how bad Jessica Andrade's situation financially is outside of the octagon. I feel terrible for her. It sounds like she's had some rough people in her lives. And so, 2023, we kind of joked it was like the divorce tour. She's fighting Lauren Murphy, Aaron Blanchfield, Jan, Tatiana Suarez, and Mackenzie Dern in a year. That's a lifetime worth of fights. So she's only had one this year. Very, very close fight against Marina Rodriguez, and she's fighting. I was on the show with Clinton. I said, I think Natalia Silva may have the highest approval percentage of anybody. Name anybody who's like, no, I don't like Natalia Silva. You know who really bothers me? Natalia Silva. You know who I hate watching fight? Natalia Silva. I can do without her. What do you think? You've been all aboard the Natalia Silva train, and I completely get it. I know you've profited very, very handsomely recently. What are you doing in this one?
I also made the mistakes with Natalia Silva in the beginning of thinking that she was some knockout artist, and she's not. She got set up pretty good for 2 finishes there. Teresa Bleda, we called that fight, to a T, that she was going to get tired, and she got worked in the 3rd. Okay. But again, it was a patient chip away performance. Victoria Leonardo, who we just saw, and we pegged her, she is one that will give you the finish. Because if she's losing, she's like, I'm done. I'm going home. And she went home, and she went home quick. Then she walks into a veteran, Andrea Lee. And that fight, again, from the very beginning, you're like, I know Andrea Lee was beat up, but you saw Natalia just do everything she had to do to win. Okay? Again, in their next fight, same thing again. With Jessica, I think this is going to be the same thing. Natalia hasn't had a height advantage yet, I don't believe, in her last 4 fights.
She's taller than I think every fight. I don't know why. I just picture this really, really short, and then she's always the same height.
You'd think that like Andrade would be bigger, this big Marauder, but she's got, 2 inches on her, I believe?
Yeah.
And when they faced off, it's pretty evident that Natalia has the bigger frame here. It's pretty evident. That being said, I'm not worried about the knockout in this. To me, it's Natalia by decision. If the grappling gets going, I could see it being worrisome, but the footwork from Natalia Silva is going to be a massive problem for Jessica Andrade. Jessica's going to try to cut off the cage, and if she gets flat-footed when she's chasing Natalia Silva, Silva's going to just stick her and move. She's got great left-to-right movement. It's not always forward-back. She doesn't circle in the same direction. She'll cut different angles, and that's going to really frustrate Andrade. And I could see her looping in and getting caught with some really good shots. So I like the over in this fight. I like Natalia Silva by decision in this fight. I think she passes this test, not without some adversity, because Andrade is going to bring the fight. But I just don't see her getting caught and finished. And I kind of think that's Jessica's win condition here, is to really hurt her and take her off her game. And I don't think she's going to be able to catch
I'll go opposite with you here. I'll take Andrade. I think Andrade is going to do some things that Natalia Silva definitely hasn't seen before. First off, she's going to land some leg kicks, and Natalia Silva hasn't faced anybody that's going to land any type of leg kicks. Araujo was able to clinch and get some control time against her. Did she do anything with it? No. Was Silva able to weather that storm and win on the feet? Yeah, but I think Andrade, I think there's a takedown potential on Silva. I think there's some control time. And just the other thing is, Andrade can make this a brawl. She's great at doing that. We watched her do it against Marina Rodriguez, and I really think that she got the nod because she finished that last round with this flurry, and it was just this brawl type of thing. And if she can get Natalia Silva just a little bit flustered and get it to where Silva's out of her comfort zone, I think the experience of Andrade can pay some dividends here. I also just think just the price is just so crazy. The like minus 300 against Jessica Andrade. To me, that's Silva could win, but I'm not willing to pay minus 300 on it. But you and I have sniffed out overs on this one, mostly because of what Silva has kind of shown in her last couple ones. So this fight to go the distance could be a good one. But yeah, for fun, we'll go head to head.
I like this one as a head to head. This will be fun.
Yeah, this would be a great one. Great fight to be cheering on opposite sides. Last chance, guys. We're gonna do the main event here. If you could please help us out with the algorithm, hit the like button. Just leave us a comment, even if it's just an emoji, like the thumbs up emoji. That would be fine. The flex emoji. I don't know if there's a Dylan Budka like scale emoji, like the Kyle Nelson. If there was a way, guys that miss weight. Something in the comments section. It really helps us out. Let us know what fights you like for this weekend. All right, Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady, main event. Who you got?
Going Sean Brady. What's his record? 16-1. There's the one. I always thought this guy was a legitimate contender, even before the loss. Now, something that me and Andy both like to do is that when these undefeated fighters, again, he says it all the time, and I agree that nobody's going to retire undefeated. There's Khabib, and that's it. Okay? You got to get your loss. You have to pay your dues in this sport. You're not going to be undefeated and run to the title. Even John Jones had a DQ loss before he won the title. Like, you have to have this loss, this learning experience. It makes you work harder. It makes you analyze your game. You learn more from losing than you do winning. I don't care what anybody says. It's great to win, but every once in a while, you need to get kicked in the teeth and get up off the canvas. And that's what Sean Brady did. The other thing is that Gilbert Burns is looking at the second part of his career at this point, and he doesn't have to admit it on the microphone for me to see this. He doesn't have to come out and say it. He's on podcasts. He's sponsoring betting apps. It's all related. They're picking stuff. He's on Moicano's podcast, which is always a show. It's not really a UFC content show. It's Moicano. It's a show. He's talking about competing in grappling matches. The interviewers are asking him about grappling matches, not UFC fights. I mean, the writing is just on the wall. You can't do this forever. This is still not his weight division he should be. He's really a lightweight. And I think Brady is really coming into his prime. I don't see Brady getting caught with a submission. And I also don't think that Gilbert throws the volume on the feet to hurt Brady like Bilal did. People can give Bilal all the crap that they want to give him. But the bottom line is when Bilal can put volume on you. That was like, everybody's saying Brady got knocked out by Bilal. That's a bad look. Well, was it a one-punch knockout? Was he struck by the power? No, it was an accumulation of shots. And Brady was doing fairly well in that first round. It just, at some point, you can't take it anymore. I think Brady wins this fight pretty much everywhere. I just can't buy into Gilbert at this age, at this point in his career. Give me the young lion to take out the old lion here and move up in the division.
Yeah, I agree with you. These older fighters, man, when they seem like they've just lost a step, that's the time. So he was winning against Jack Della, fell apart. Loses against Bilal Muhammad, has a really bad, shoulder injury. Here's my other problem. Like, Jorge Masvidal, that's your last win. I mean, Masvidal was gone.
Not a real
That was
fight.
his last fight.
Wasn't a real fight.
Yeah, it wasn't a real fight. He chokes out Neil Magny, who, I mean, let's face it, Neil Magny just got killed by Morales, was on his deathbed until Mike Marotte had the gas of all gases, barely beats Phil Rowe by a split decision. That's not looking good. And, Neil Magny is older than Stephen Thompson. Decision. Can't implement the wrestling. Tyrone Woodley, Damian Maia. These guys are 35 years old and older. That's who he's beating. He's not beating guys that are younger than that. I'm with you, the Brady. I love I love when guys finally get that first loss, and I think we did see the switch get flipped. Gaslam, he annihilated Gaslam. That was not competitive. Say what you want about Gaslam, but Gaslam's a real UFC fighter, and Brady dominated. So I'm with you on that one. Yeah, we're in agreement that Sean Brady over Gilbert Burns. So, man, just getting tired against Jack Della getting knocked out. Now this is a 5-round fight. Ooh. Oh, man, 5 rounds. Yeah, that's scary.
Father Time is undefeated. I know it's a cliched statement, but, I'm sure if you gathered up all the 38-year-olds over the past 7 years that fought in the UFC and you bet against them all, you probably have a pretty good record.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us. Like button, comment. Good luck on all your plays. College football, grab it for $15 a wager talk. We'll see everyone later.
Take care, guys.